Another underutilized feature in RHEL is session recording. So session recording, which is based on a package called tlog for terminal logging, will actually capture all of the content of a terminal session, store it as text, and write it to your logging provider of choice. We're going to do the setup through Cockpit, through RHEL Web Console here. And you can see over in the side nav bar, there's a option for session recording down there towards the bottom. So I'm just going to go click on that. There are currently no recorded sessions on the machine because I haven't configured it and enabled it yet. So I'm going to use the little settings gear up in the corner. And there's basically two groups of settings. One is the general configuration for session recording. I can indicate the shell that should be used when we're recording sessions, any login messages that I should provide to people if their session is being recorded, how big those log messages should be, what things I want to capture, and so on. I'm happy with all of those default settings. So I'm just going to save that. And then the other thing we can do is the SSD config. So this is whose sessions should we capture? What's the list of users that you want to capture? What's the list of groups that you want to capture? When somebody logs in, we know that they're in this list of users or they are part of this list of groups, and we'll capture the session. And if they're not in the list, we won't capture their session. Notice that changes that additional criteria say you can choose to not capture these specific people or people who belong to these specific groups, right? But I'm going to leave those blank, meaning I capture all. So again, I'm going to hit the save button. And at this point, I've enabled session recording. I'm going to go down to my terminal and I'm sudo root. I'm going to SSH RHEL user at localhost.
I think we need to convince people above us that we need to be full-time YouTubers. And that's the best way for us to bring value to Red Hat.
Full-time YouTubers, man. All right. There we go. So I log into my machine via SSH, right? There's the message that we saw in the previous configuration. So I know that my session is being recorded. And I could do stuff like df password. And I can even do things like become root. I'm just going to quit. All right, after my session has been closed, if I go back up to the session recording item, there's my session that's been recorded.
There you go.
I click on it and I can play it. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can read it. Remember I was talking about session recording and I fixed it and I was talking for a little bit. Then I looked at my disk free, looked at a file. Then I became root. And then I ran a command that produced an error. And not only did it show me the output from all these commands, but it also showed me the error output for all these commands. So this was actually all sent to logging daemon of my choice. But before we do that, I also wanted to show you this piece. See this little search bar?
I didn't know that existed. So this will look through the session to find when you ran cat.
Yeah, so it was at 13 seconds, and I can click on that, and it'll jump me over to 13 seconds into the recording.
So if you're looking for something, for example, like, did this guy change Etsy password, which is something that you did do in there, you could have searched for password and saved yourself the time of watching maybe a very long session recording. So that's handy.
Right. So it highlights all the places in the session where that string occurs because we're actually recording the contents as text. Let me go back over to my terminal on Web Console here. All right. So right here, that highlighted area, that's an example message that got put in by session recording. It's all stored in text. And that's why you can put in the text you're looking for, and it will tell you the time
Right.
codes that go along with that text.
Right.
Because this is going through logging, you can actually send these session recorded bits of data to a central place. So you don't have to worry about like, what if somebody blanks the log? Do I lose all my sessions? You can actually store them in different places. You can even use different log analysis tools to do your own analysis outside, or you can congregate them together with their session ID, and you can use a T-log player on the remote machine and give it a session ID, and it'll actually reconstruct the session on the command line for you.
I've done that with outputting these to text instead of to the logging daemon, and then they're pretty much portable. You can copy them to a different machine and use the T-log player and look at them wherever. So if you're thinking about, I work in an environment where we need to keep X number of days or weeks of these logs, dealing with the system journal would be a pain. You can tell it to output them somewhere else, and then you can back that up or store it on a remote system where it's a little more central.
Right. And so a couple places where this is really useful, right? We talked about configuring it and like how's an admin you interact with it, but what does it actually do for you? Well, one is like Nate said, somebody changed Etsy password and you need to figure out who. So you can
Right.
use the searching tools or text searching tools to figure out where those exist in different sessions and then replay the session to figure out what. The other thing I really like is that it captures both output and errors. So when we look at
Yeah.
other technologies like Audit D, where it tells you who edited a file, it just tells you the name of the file, the person that did something to it, and what they did to it, but you don't necessarily get the context of what was changed in the file. Whereas with session recording, I could actually watch if they opened up VI, I would see the VI session. And
Yeah.
if they go in and tweak it, I would see their changes happening in the VI session. Right.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it is that you can actually see a visual editor, for example, or a TUI or something that's up on the screen. You can actually see what they did in it. It's not just, oh, they ran the thing, but what did they do? Oh, well, we're not sure. You can actually see the keystrokes. You can see the cursor as it moves around. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing I really liked, did you catch where I ran a command that didn't work, Nate?
I did.
Do you remember the name of the command?
If-
Yeah. So like somebody calls you up. I ran the command you told me, but it didn't work. I don't know what's going
Right.
on. You gave me an error. Right. And then
Yeah.
you can look back and be like, yeah, I told you to run cat. No, no, you ran feline. That is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it gives you the whole session with context, which a lot of the other tools don't provide. And that's why I think session recording and T-log is an underutilized feature that you should be using now.
Absolutely. Get on that. Especially if you're in an environment that a lot of the use cases you just outlined are things like troubleshooting, but it's also good for secure environments where you have to know what people did. I know in the financial industry this is a big deal, right? Did someone log in and try to falsify something? Yeah, well, now you can tell.